12 R&B stars, all of them successful, all of them beloved, and every single one of them at some point turned around and made life a living nightmare for the very people they worked with. We're not talking about feuds between strangers. We're talking about co-stars, bandmates, people who shared stages, dressing rooms, studio sessions. Some of them shared childhood memories, and still, they did it. This is the dark side of R&B, the side that doesn't fit on the album cover.
Words killing me softly.
The fights nobody filmed, the firings nobody announced, the abuse that happened behind closed doors while the songs were playing on every radio in America. By the time we get to number 1, you're going to have a hard time believing this really happened, but it did. And it all starts right here at number 12. Number 12, Mariah Carey. There's a moment on live TV in 2008 that tells you almost everything you need to know about number 12. Mariah Carey is on stage at Good Morning America performing her hit, Touch My Body. The cameras are rolling, millions watching.
Turn the dial, trying to catch a break, and then I hear, baby.
In mid-song, she turns around to one of her backup singers, a professional woman who has trained for years to be exactly where she is, and says it loud enough for the microphone to catch. Stop singing my part now, baby. Live television, in front of the nation. Now here's what gets me about that. Mariah Carey started as a backup singer. She was one of those background vocalists standing behind someone else's dream, hoping somebody would notice her voice. She knows exactly what that feels like. She's been that person, and still.
Come back, baby, please, 'cause we belong together.
The backup singer incident is the thing everybody talks about, but it's one piece of a larger picture. Writers that reportedly demanded backup singers avoid making direct eye contact with her. Stage runners in a constant state of controlled panic. Event staff operating under a protocol that resembled a state visit more than a concert. One venue was allegedly asked to remodel a bathroom for a 1-hour appearance. She reportedly broke a tea set after using it at a record shop signing so nobody else could use it after her. Tour paperwork noted she was not to use stairs.
On the radio, send to me if you think you're lonely.
You probably know someone who's met a Mariah Carey employee, and if you do, you know that working for Mariah carries its own entire emotional vocabulary. Now, is Mariah deliberately cruel? Probably not. But there's something uniquely cutting about being publicly corrected in front of millions by the person whose success your voice is literally contributing to.
The feeling that I'm feeling now that I don't hear your voice, or have you touching kiss.
And when it becomes the standard for how people around you are treated, it stops being a personality quirk. It starts being a pattern. At number 12, Mariah Carey. At number 11, a group that made the Mariah story look like a minor disagreement.
Who's gonna talk to me when the sun comes up? Who's gonna take your place?
Number 11, In Vogue.
You have the right, yeah.
4 women, perfect harmonies, My Lovin', Free Your Mind, Don't Let Go. On Vogue in the early 90s was untouchable. And then Maxine Jones looked her former bandmate Terry Ellis in the eye and called her, and I'm quoting directly here, an evil skank on the record to the press. How do you get from the Grammy stage to that? Here's how.
Running in and out my life.
In 1994, after the huge success of Funky Divas, a new label came to En Vogue with a $15 million deal. $15 million. And the group couldn't agree. Maxine Jones and Dawn Robinson wanted the new deal. Terry Ellis and Cindy Herron sided with their original producers. The 4 women who had sung in perfect unison for years were suddenly splitting along a fault line, and it ran right through the middle of everything. 2 years of fighting followed. Into 2 years where careers stalled, money ran out, and trust evaporated. Then things got Cindy turned to Maxine in the middle of a disagreement and said, and this is Maxine's account, "Give the money back or we'll take it out of your check." To Maxine Jones, a founding member of one of the most successful girl groups of all time, that line was a declaration. It meant she wasn't an equal partner. It meant she had no real say. It was the moment she put all of them on notice. Her words. They fired her. She tried to start her own group using the En Vogue name. Terry and Cindy sued. Maxine lost the right to use the name she helped build. She ended up filing for bankruptcy. Dawn Robinson years later would reveal she'd been homeless. 30 million records. Two of the women who made them went broke. And if you've ever given everything you had to something you built with your own hands and walked away with nothing while the brand kept going without you, you already know how that sentence lands. That's En Vogue. And at number 10, we're going back to one of the most complicated loyalty decisions in music history. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's one coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 10, Jermaine Jackson. In 1973, Jermaine Jackson married a woman named Hazel Gordy. She was the daughter of Berry Gordy, the man who owned Motown Records, the man who owned the label the Jackson 5 had been signed to since 1969. That's worth sitting with for a moment. 2 years later, in 1975, the Jackson 5, Michael, Jackie, Tito, Marlon, all of them, had had enough. Motown was paying them a 2.7% royalty rate. They weren't allowed to write or produce their own music. They were making millions for the company and going home with almost nothing. So they announced they were leaving Motown for Epic Records, which offered a 20% royalty rate and creative control. And Jermaine stayed. He stood with his father-in-law, he kept his Motown deal, and his brothers walked out the door without him. Forced to change their name because Berry Gordy owned the name Jackson 5 and start over as the Jacksons. Little brother Randy replaced Jermaine in the lineup. Now, here's the thing about this that most people gloss over. Jermaine didn't just decline to leave. His presence at Motown was leverage for Berry Gordy in the battle with his departing siblings. His marriage made him part of the apparatus that had been underpaying his own family for years. While his brothers were fighting for their creative lives and their financial futures, Jermaine was embedded in the machine they were fighting against. He'd rejoined them in 1983 for a reunion, but that moment, 1975, when they needed him and he chose the other side, never really went away. And whether that was loyalty to his wife, loyalty to a father figure, or something else entirely, I'll let you decide. Number 10, Jermaine Jackson. At number 9, things get physical. Number 9, Xscape, LaTocha Scott.
Just give me good love. Lay back.
Xscape had hits, real ones. Just kicking it, understanding who can I run to. 4 girls from Atlanta discovered by Jermaine Dupri. 3 multi-platinum albums. The group broke up in 1998 and fans never fully got over it. Here's the part they didn't put in the liner notes.
For just laying on her.
LaTocha Scott and Candy Burris were never on the same page. According to LaTocha, the tension started because Candy had a problem with LaTocha singing lead on too many tracks. She would just have a fit, LaTocha said in 2023. The resentment built slowly, and then at some point during a rehearsal, it exploded. Full fist fight in the rehearsal hall. Tiny Harris confirmed it years later. The rehearsal hall was turned upside down. That's not a creative disagreement. That's not a diva moment. It's a genuine physical altercation between two women who were supposed to be musical sisters. But wait, it goes deeper. When Xscape reunited in 2017, LaTocha's husband Rocky became involved in the group's business. And in 2023, on the Bravo reality series SWV and Xscape, the queens of R&B, Tamika, Tiny, and Candy confronted LaTocha with text messages alleging that Rocky had accepted secret kickback payments from a promoter without the group's knowledge. Tens of thousands of dollars, allegedly. LaTocha and Rocky denied everything. But by the end of that filming, LaTocha hadn't shown up to a single rehearsal, and her own sister Tamika was on camera saying, "Where are we as sisters?" If you're nodding right now, if you've been part of something that started with pure love and ended with lawyers and accusations and your own family asking you who you even are anymore, you know how that feels. Xscape, number 9. At number 8, a different kind of explosion. Number 8, Bobby Brown, New Edition. Here's something that doesn't get said enough. Bobby Brown didn't just have conflicts with New Edition. Bobby Brown was a founding member of New Edition. He was one of the kids from the Orchard Park Projects in Roxbury, Boston, who formed this group from nothing. He helped to build this. And then somewhere between the tour buses and the charts and the money, or the lack of it, things went sideways in ways that couldn't be walked back. By 1985, Bobby was visibly unhappy. The group was performing sugary pop to screaming teenage girls, and Bobby wanted to grow. He started doing sexually provocative dance moves on stage, things that, according to the group's biopic, sent management into a panic and embarrassed his bandmates in real time. He'd step out of formation. He'd extend his spotlight moments past what was agreed. He wanted the group to see him, acknowledge what he was bringing to the stage, and they kept turning the volume down. Here's where the story tips. At a 1985 concert in Oakland, California, a dispute over the performance of Cool It Now escalated until Bobby and Michael Bivins came to physical blows on stage in front of the audience. After that, the group voted him out, under pressure from their manager and their label. What happened next, Bobby says he remembers differently. He maintains they voted him out. The other members say he chose to leave. And maybe both things can be true at the same time, the way endings often are. Messy. Nobody fully right. Nobody fully wrong. But that's the version that gets a box on the back of a documentary. In the part nobody talks about is what he said after. The most I saw from all the tours and all the records we sold was $500 in a VCR. That's the context. At number 7, we go back to Motown. And this one ends very badly. Number 7, Diana Ross, The Supremes. Florence Ballard co-founded the group that became the Supremes. She was there before Diana Ross was the lead singer. She was there before Berry Gordy renamed them Diana Ross and the Supremes in 1967. She was there when none of them had hit records yet, when they were just girls from the Brewster Douglas projects with a dream they couldn't stop chasing. And she died at 32, on welfare, almost alone. How does that happen to one of the founding members of the most commercially successful American vocal group of all time? The answer is complicated. Florence was dealing with trauma that went far back before the music. She had suffered abuse as a teenager that her own group mates didn't fully know about until years later. The Supremes' relentless schedule gave her no room to process any of it. She turned to alcohol. She started missing shows. Berry Gordy, who was involved with Diana Ross, had already been restructuring the group around Ross as the uncontested center. The name change in 1967 was the clearest announcement of what everyone had known for years. Florence was fired in July 1967, the day after her 24th birthday. She was replaced without ceremony and given a solo deal that went nowhere. She lost her house. She lost a lawsuit she filed against Motown. By 1975, she was on public assistance. A year later, at 32, she was gone. Coronary thrombosis. Mary Wilson testified that Diana always liked to be the center of attention. If you happened to be in her way while she was going toward the center, that was your fault. And at the 1983 Motown 25 special, according to multiple eyewitnesses, Diana pushed Mary Wilson out of the spotlight during a live taping in front of cameras, in front of an audience, in what was supposed to be a joyful reunion. Berry Gordy allegedly has that footage in a vault. Diana Ross built a magnificent career. She also helped dismantle the lives of the women who stood beside her before the cameras found her face. And Florence Ballard, the woman who founded the Supremes and chose their name, died receiving government assistance while those 12 #1 records played on the radio. That part doesn't go in the Motown Museum. Number 7 and number 6, we step away from the studio and into something darker. Number 6, K.C. Haley, Mary J. Blige. In the early 90s, K.C. Haley was one of the most electrifying voices in R&B. Jodeci was at the top. Forever My Lady, Diary of a Madman. And K.C., the one who sang like his whole body was on fire, was the centerpiece of all of it. I do everything for you, but in your and between 1992 and 1997, he was in a relationship with Mary J. Blige. They weren't just romantically linked. They were music partners. They toured together. They appeared on each other's records. I Don't Want to Do Anything from Mary's debut album, What's the 411, features the two of them singing together like they're the same person. To anyone watching from the outside, it looked like a love story written in music. Mary J. Blige herself is the one who told us it wasn't. In her 2021 Amazon documentary, Mary J. Blige's My Life, she went on record about what that relationship actually was. Domestic violence, drug use, abuse. The relationship she described nearly destroyed her career at the very moment her first album was changing what R&B sounded like. She said she used alcohol and cocaine during that period to numb the anxiety stardom brought on. But she was also specific. She told the world what K.C. did to her. They split in 1997, and here's what still gets me about this story. They were building something beautiful in public. Records, performances, a sound people still call the blueprint for R&B, while something terrible was happening between them in private. And the music kept playing like nothing was wrong. Mary fought her way back. She's said many times that surviving that period is why she became who she is. But she should never have had to fight her way back from someone who was supposed to be her partner. And if you've ever had to rebuild yourself from someone who said they loved you, you know exactly what kind of strength that takes. Number 6, Casey Haley. And now everything shifts. Number 5, Destiny's Child, LaToya Luckett and Latavia Robertson.
You would say, baby has a day, but today ain't the same.
LaToya Luckett and Latavia Robertson were founding members of Destiny's Child. Not management hires, not replacements. They were there from the beginning, from Girls' Time, from the Star Search loss, from the years of rehearsals in Beyonce's mother's hair salon in Houston. They grew up with these girls. They were childhood best friends. In late 1999, LaToya and Latavia decided they wanted a different manager. Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father, had been running the group's affairs, and they believed his management was unfair, that he was keeping money that should have been theirs, and that he was structuring the group in ways that specifically elevated Beyonce and Kelly Rowland. They asked formally for separate management. They weren't quitting the group. They just wanted their own representation. Here's what happened instead. In February 2000, the music video for Say My Name, the group's third single from The Writings on the Wall, premiered on TRL. And in the video, LaToya and Latavia weren't there. They had been replaced by Michelle Williams and Farrah Franklin. Before the video aired, Beyonce announced on TRL that LaToya and Robertson had left the group. They found out they'd been fired by watching a music video. No call, no meeting, no conversation. They switched on the television and discovered that the group they had built with their hands and their voices since childhood had replaced them. And on top of that, they'd publicly been announced as having left. As if the decision had been theirs, they sued in March 2000. The lawsuit alleged breach of partnership and fiduciary duties. They cited nepotism. They called it exactly what it was. They settled. How would you like it if I came over with my clique? Don't try to change. They were credited as co-writers on Say My Name, which won the Grammy for R&B Song of the Year in 2001, but they didn't walk to that stage to accept it. LaToya Luckett eventually said years later, "Did it hurt? Absolutely, because we were friends. I went to school with these girls. You ain't running game. Say my name, say my name. You acting kinda shady." Some of y'all said I knew it out loud just now. I heard you. At number 4, a story about a name that wasn't theirs to own. Every other word is okay. Could it be the truth? Number 4, Pebbles, TLC. Before TLC was TLC, they were 3 young women from Atlanta, Tyann Watkins, Lisa Lopes, Rosonda Thomas, who walked into an audition for a singer named Perry Pebbles Reed. Pebbles heard them and saw something. She renamed the group using their first initials, signed them to her management company, Pebitone, and got them a deal with LaFace Records. LaFace Records, run by L.A. Reid, who happened to be Pebbles' husband. And here's what nobody told those 3 girls when they signed. Pebbles owned the name TLC, the name these women would build their entire identities around, was legally Pebbles' intellectual property. When you signed with Pebitone, you were signing into a structure where the same company managed you, produced you, and held your legal identity. They were steered to the same attorneys as Pebbles when negotiating. They didn't get separate counsel. When you don't have your own lawyer and the other side does, and the other side is your manager, you're not signing a deal, you're stepping into a trap. By 1993 and 1994, TLC had sold 11 million copies of Crazy Sexy Cool. 11 million. It's still the only album by an all-female group to achieve diamond certification. That's platinum 11 times. Each member took home $50,000. $50,000. In 1995, TLC filed for bankruptcy. They were $3.5 million in debt. They were the best-selling female group in the world, and they were filing for bankruptcy because after expenses, music videos, clothes, airline tickets, tour costs, all deducted from the label side, they owed more than they had. And when they tried to leave Pebbles' management, they couldn't use their own name. They had to buy back the name TLC from the woman who had signed them as teenagers. $3 million for their own name. T-Boz confirmed it in an interview. Honey, to buy back the name TLC. You know that feeling when you realize you've been building something that somebody else owns? That everything you've bled for belongs to a contract you signed when you were 20 years old without a lawyer of your own? That's not a bad business deal. That's predatory. And it happened to TLC. At number 3, a man who was fired and refused to accept it. Number 3, David Ruffin, The Temptations. By 1967, David Ruffin was The Temptations. He sang My Girl, the group's first number 1 hit. He sang Ain't Too Proud to Beg. He sang I Wish It Would Rain. Marvin Gaye once said that Ruffin's voice had a strength my own voice lacked. Rod Stewart has credited him as a defining influence. The man had a voice that could stop a room. He also had a cocaine problem and an ego that cocaine was feeding. By 1967, Ruffin was demanding a private mink-lined limousine for himself while the rest of the Temptations shared a car. He wanted the group's name changed to David Ruffin and the Temptations, exactly the way Berry Gordy had renamed the Supremes for Diana Ross. He started missing rehearsals, missing shows. In June 1968, he skipped a concert engagement in Cleveland entirely to attend a performance by his new girlfriend, who happened to be Dean Martin's daughter. The group fired him on June 27, 1968. They had it legally documented. Dennis Edwards came in as his replacement, and the Temptations told Ruffin it was over, and that's where most stories end. Here's where this one gets strange. Ruffin refused to be replaced. He would show up unannounced to Temptations concerts where Dennis Edwards was now performing. And when the band started playing Ruffin-era hits, songs like My Girl and Ain't Too Proud to Beg, David Ruffin would walk out of the wings, stride across the stage, grab the microphone out of Dennis Edwards' hands, sing the song, and disappear. He did this multiple times. He would just appear, take the mic, sing, leave. According to Edwards, the adulation from the crowd was so electric that the other Temptations briefly entertained letting him come back. He showed up for the first formal meeting about it, late, disheveled, clearly under the influence. That was the end of that conversation. Stay with me on this. Dennis Edwards, a man who was personally encouraged by Ruffin to take his spot, had to spend weeks of his new career not knowing if his predecessor was about to walk onto the stage and take the microphone from his hands in front of a paying audience. That's not heartbreak, that's psychological warfare.
All wrong, fellas, because let me tell you, once
David Ruffin died in 1991 in a Philadelphia hospital after collapsing in a crack house. He was 50 years old. Michael Jackson paid for his funeral. The voice, the chaos, the tragedy, it all fits in one life. At number 2, a group that the music industry taught us to love, and a man inside it who was running something that looked more like a prison.
For 3 long years in my head, I've been looking, I haven't found another day.
Number 2, Lauryn Hill, the Fugees.
Softly. With his
In 1996, the Fugees released The Score. It sold 17 million copies worldwide. It produced Killing Me Softly, Ready or Not, No Woman, No Cry. It won 2 Grammy Awards. It is still considered one of the greatest albums in the history of popular music. The Fugees were Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, and Pra Michelle, 3 people from New Jersey who had built something genuinely transformative together. By 1997, they were done. Here's what nobody talked about while Killing Me Softly was playing on every station in America.
his words, killing me softly.
Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean had a romantic relationship that fractured the group from the inside. When it ended badly, it didn't just create awkwardness, it created war. Wyclef and Pra were increasingly pushed to the margins as Lauryn's star rose, and then Lauryn moved toward her solo work with a single-mindedness that left little room for the people she'd built with.
Him and listen for a while.
The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill dropped in 1998. It sold 19 million copies. It won 5 Grammy Awards in a single night. It is widely considered one of the most important albums ever made. Pra Michelle, who had been there from the beginning, who was a foundational part of what made the Fugees what they were, was left largely off the credits for his contributions to her solo work, not by accident.
His finger, yes, he was singing.
He sued her in 2007 over $1 million royalty dispute, and then came the years of documented chaos with the people who worked for her. Lauryn Hill has kept musicians waiting for hours, has arrived to shows 2, 3, 4 hours late on multiple continents, has kept entire production crews on standby while the audience waited in an empty venue, some of them for 3 hours or more.
With his words killing me.
There are documented incidents across multiple tours, multiple countries, multiple decades. Musicians who were employed by her describe working conditions that tested every boundary of professional loyalty. She is one of the most important artists this music has ever produced, and she spent years making the people who loved her work feel expendable. Want to know what's worst about this? The album that made her an icon, the one with X Factor and Nothing Even Matters and Everything Is Everything, was recorded by a woman who was processing real pain. And somewhere in that processing, the people around her paid a price they never agreed to pay. Number 2, Lauryn Hill. And at number 1, a man who made being signed to his label something his own artists described as house arrest. Number 1, Devontae Swing, Jodeci, and Swing Mob.
'Cause you're the kind of lady with so much.
Jodeci gave us Forever My Lady, Come and Talk to Me, Fiendin', Freaking You. Devontae Swing was the architect of all of it, the producer, the songwriter, the creative force who defined the sound of early 90s R&B in ways that are still being sampled and replicated today. He was also the man who built something called the Swing Mob. In 1991, at the height of Jodeci's commercial power, Devontae began assembling a collective of artists and producers around him. Young, talented, hungry artists who believed that signing with Devontae Swing was their shot. The roster included a girl group called Sista, whose lead singer was a woman from Virginia named Missy Elliott. It included a producer from Norfolk named Tim Mosley. you'd eventually know him as Timbaland. It included a singer named Elgin Baylor Lumpkin, who would become Genuine.
For the very next day, but when I see you,
Stevie J was in those rooms. Tweet was in those rooms. Static Major, who would later write some of the most important R&B songs of the late 90s, was in those rooms. The talent in that collective went on to reshape everything. Here's what they walked into first. In his 2015 memoir, The Emperor of Sound, Timbaland described working under Devontae Swing, not as a mentor-protege relationship, not as a creative partnership. He described it like being under house arrest. His exact words. They would go, he wrote, for days without eating. They were woken up in the middle of the night to run crazy errands. They were knocked around, beaten down, and barely paid for the work they produced. But the moment that defines this story, the moment that finally broke it open, comes from Stevie J in a 2017 Drink Champs interview. One day in a New York studio, Devontae Swing walked in. He came with his cousin, his bodyguards, and 2 pit bulls on leashes. And then without warning, he walked up to each of his artists, one by one, and slapped them across the face. Missy Elliott, Genuine, Timbaland, one by one. His cousin came behind him and hit them again. These artists stood there and took it because they were afraid, because he had power over their careers, because they were young and didn't have the language yet for what was being done to them. Stevie J was the one who finally said no. When Devontae's cousin approached him, Stevie told him he better not put his hands on him. It turned into a full brawl. Stevie J, Casey, Devontae's cousin, bodyguards, everyone. Stevie J said someone hit him over the head with a bottle. He still has the scar. And when the fight was over, Stevie told Missy, Timbaland, and Genuine, "You're stupid if you stay." His exact words. They left. And here's the part that should sit with you a little. The talent that Devontae Swing built and then turned into a labor camp, Missy Elliott, Timbaland, Genuine, walked out of that situation and went on to define the sound of late 90s and early 2000s R&B. Timbaland produced Aaliyah's One in a Million and later worked with Justin Timberlake. Missy became the most original and important R&B artist of her generation. Genuine had one of the most played songs of the decade. They made it anyway, in spite of him. But they shouldn't have had to. No young artist should have to survive physical assault and near starvation to get their music heard. And the fact that some of them did and made it out doesn't make what was done to them acceptable. Devontae Swing is the #1 entry on this list. Not because his story is the most famous, but because it is the most complete picture of what happens when power inside the music industry goes completely, catastrophically unchecked.